Hey there my friends, welcome to a video. It's been a while, I'm sorry. Just had everything else on the go apart from the channel. But here we are today looking at the Benchmade Bailout. I'm going to tell you why. With one simple step, you can make this into a fantastic EDC knife. Step 1. Take the inbuilt glass breaker and throw it on the roof. So the Benchmade Bailout goes from being an awkward knife to a really rather good knife with one simple modification, and that is removing the stupid factory glass breaker from the back of the knife. Now I'm going to level with you Benchmade and with everyone else who's trying to enter the tactical folding knife market. No one who does any form of rescue work values a glass breaker on the back of a knife. Glass breakers are actually fairly specialized tools. You can't simply put a tiny glass breaker on the back of a handle that is not made to completely be only attached to a glass breaker or a rescue tool and expect that it's going to give the knife any credibility or any kudos from people who do that kind of work. All those people have either a specialized glass breaker strap cutter tool or they have access to something that's much better than their EDC pocket knife to be used as a glass breaker. If you're selling to the market that may be thinking, well, what if I'm in a car rollover and I can use the glass breaker on the back of my knife to extract and free myself from my car, then I think you're kind of assuming there's more people in that group than in the group that says, I'd like my handle to be comfortable. Because invariably, putting a glass breaker on the end of a knife makes for a weird little hot spot whenever you hold the knife in any normal fashion. Glass breakers on knives are stupid and stop putting them on there. Fuck. So anyway, my configuration here does not have that. I got this from my friend Chris, I bought it off him, and he has gone and very sensibly, in my opinion, had the glass breaker swapped out with a much more normal backspacer. So what we're left with is a nice, slim, tanto-bladed, M4 steel, aluminium handled, really almost optimized EDC knife. Let's get into the review and I'll show you how it looks next to some other things. This is next to the Spyderco Spidey Chef. And next to the Cold Steel Air Light. Next to a Spyderco K390 Delica. Show you the blade thicknesses there. They're actually quite similarly thick, which is kind of something cool about this knife. And then in a Opinel number 8 in carbone. Oh yeah. So M4 steel from Benchmade, in my experience with several iterations of it, has always been a good performer, holds its edge well, and especially in this example I've noticed it does quite good against sort of rough or I guess improper cutting media. So I've been cutting open bags of compost and fertilizer and bark chips and things like that, stuff that would generally have that abrasive effect, dulling edges really quickly. This M4 steel has done perfectly well. In fact, I've only really just been touching it up on my pants and it's still got a very, very sharp edge even now. So it's done really well throughout my relatively organic review process. I haven't really done too much I guess simulated use. I've just been out using it in my garden, cutting bits of polypipe and all sorts of stuff. So it's done really, really well. With regard to the handle, it's very simple. It's a thin knife, so you're not going to have a super comfy bushcraft knife kind of grip on it. It's utilitarian at best, but they've kept it simple, which I always like. They're relatively intelligently designed, sort of dual flange here, acts as somewhat of an inbuilt guard. The knife index as well, you can put your thumb on the back of it and kind of point your thumb at what you want to get cut, and it does an overall good basic job of being a handle. I much prefer the aluminium material to the first range of bailouts, which had just that sort of FRN style plastic material, which while strong had a bit of squish to it and a bit of flex to it, which kind of made the knife feel lighter use than what it really can be. So I much prefer the aluminium. The slight texturing is nice. It's not doing a huge amount to hold the knife in place, but there's some jimping on the back and the front, and as I said, the flange at the top there is generally going to do the main work of being sort of bared down upon. So very comfortable handle. Alright, so I'm going to show you how I make my omelette. Alrighty, so container, crack eggs into it. Three eggs will be plenty, splash of milk. These are chives that I got from my garden, cut these up. Chuck them in your egg mixture and give that a whiskey. And then put that to the side. Cut up some cherry tomatoes or normal tomatoes or whatever. Thinly slice some chorizo. That'll be plenty, and then chop it into even smaller bits. Grab some feta cheese, this is Danish. Cut off a block that you're going to work with, that'll be fine. And again, you're just going to cut it into small bits, just enough to really sprinkle through. I don't like having big chunks in my omelette. It's putting too much cheese. Sparing with this, in my opinion, sparing. Big old non-stick pan. Olive oil. And let it heat up. So now you're going to quickly sear up all those ingredients apart from the eggs, they go in last. Sprinkle this stuff all over the place. Chorizo and tomato first, and then after that, the cheese. Alright, so that's enough. Just put the feta just kind of all over, just so it's nice and even. Then grab a lid or something you can use to insulate, because that's the most important part. So you're going to turn the heat all the way down, heat as low as possible. And grab your eggs once again. Try and get everything nice and uniformly arranged. So there's a bit of something all over the pan, right? Then we're going to get our eggs and fill in all the gaps. Spread out, keep the heat super low, cover the pan, and then leave it. Leave it for like 4 minutes. You'll be tempted to open up the lid and poke with it and fuck with it. Don't do that. Righto. So when you give it a shake, you'll notice nothing really jiggles. It's all pretty much set. And then getting a device such as this, you'll see that it lifts off the pan without a problemo. It's very thin, more of a crepe, but a very tasty omelette awaits you. And there we are, a peach style, really tasty omelette. Bun apple tits. Locking and unlocking is done, of course, with a Benchmade axis lock. So the axis lock is probably my second favorite lock. If you don't have a list of your 5 ranked knife locks, are you really a knife guy? Number 1 being the compression lock you'd find on a Spyderco. Kind of anything that's kind of flicky, but also strong, rates highly with me. The axis lock has an inherent, I suppose, weakness in that it's got an Omega spring doing the springing back and forward. And an Omega spring is like a Omega Greek symbol shaped spring that wraps around the locking, what do you call that? Knob? Penis. Bar, I guess. And yeah, it brings it back to true when you pull it to release the blade. But I suppose like any thin spring, it could get caught on something and pulled out. And there's a lot of anecdotal tales of Omega springs failing, and also some videos about it. So something to keep in mind, that it's probably what keeps it from being number 1 in my opinion. However, it gets you great fun, fidget factor, reasonable amount of strength, and in my experience, pretty okay durability, but then results may vary. Now, my aluminium has definitely worn some Boba Fett armor effect from rolling around in my pocket with... Ada's balky today. Let's go out and do it with her. Yeet! Hello. So my Benchmade Bailout has got some wear on the aluminium. It really does pick up any damage from like putting it in the same pocket as your keys or something like that. I kind of think it adds to the kind of Boba Fett effect of the finish, kind of makes it your knife. But yeah, this stuff dings crazy easily. Mine's kind of been in and out of a few different things, and yeah, has certainly showing some wear for it. In opposition to that, of course, so the blade finish is really holding strong. And it's just, as I said, I've cut through a lot of things you probably wouldn't usually EDC knife, an expensive EDC knife to cut, more kind of box cutter sort of jobs, and holding up really well. It's protecting that M4 steel from the elements, so doing very well. But definitely something to consider. If you're going to use this knife, it isn't going to stay nice for super long. It's going to get some knocks and bumps and bruises on the finish. The knife comes with the small Benchmade deep carry clip. Really good combination of being subtle, effective, and carrying the knife quite well. So yeah, Benchmade Bailout, aluminium version, no glass breaker. It's become a bit of a go-to for me. I'm really enjoying it. I've noticed it's cutting, almost on par with my TRM Atom. Nice and thin. It's got a slim handle this way, which is another thing that I really like in knives. And overall, with these modifications, it's a bit of a win. But without them, that glass breaker from the previous Bailouts I've had, causes a hot spot, which makes the knife far less enjoyable to use, especially given the severely limited utility of a knife-based glass breaker in day-to-day life. So make that small change, spend another $30 on a little piece of titanium or whatever you can get fitted in the back of your bailout, and go for it. Go your hardest. You're getting a nice thin M4 blade, Tanto shape, which may not be your cup of tea, but I'm finding it definitely is my cup of tea. Oh yeah, hey love. It was just a joke. It wasn't supposed to be the funniest joke in the world, but I think that's a bit of an overreaction, don't you think? What, for one joke? Who is that in the background? Are you at John's house again?